You know, and that brings me to ask you to educate the audience a little bit about you and your platform. First of all, what got you into North Carolina politics, and into your community and what's going on, and um, if you could highlight some of the things that are different from the Democratic Party with the Green Party in your particular district that are focused right now. So if you could kind
Right.
of
Yeah.
give your
Yeah.
platform a bit.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
thanks. So I got into politics. I was in the Marine Corps. I was in the State Department. I took part in the wars, and I regret that. I'm ashamed of that. And in 2009, when I was at the State Department, I resigned. I was in Afghanistan. And I resigned in protest over the escalation of the Afghan war in 2009, and that put me into the anti-war community. I ended up joining a think tank in Washington D.C., one of the few non-corporate think tanks. Um, where we were anti-war, for a just foreign policy, pro-human rights, so very much different than most of the other think tanks in Washington, D.C.
Hmm.
And
Definitely not the Hudson Institute.
no, no, not Brookings, not
No.
Carnegie, not,
Right.
any of those,
Right.
AEI or any of that stuff.
Hmm.
So we, so that, and at that same time too, as I worked at that level, at the congressional level, at the, DC suit and tie, nonsense level, I also became very involved as an activist, working with Veterans for Peace and Code Pink, and
Okay.
working on the ground, having putting my body into it, taking part in actions. A lot of experience that way as well, and really understanding what a movement needs to be successful.
Right.
I'm down here in North Carolina, and still doing that work. At that point, at about this time last year, the North Carolina Green Party reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you like to run for federal office?" And it wasn't anything I had thought about. And I
Mhm.
said, yeah, sure. So I had registered, I had affiliated with the North Carolina Green Party. I had joined the Greens as my first political party I'd ever been a part of. I had never been a part of the Democratic Party, never been part of the Republican Party. I've been voting third party for since 2012.
Right.
Yeah, it was a natural home for me. I am in agreement on the issues. I am a socialist. I believe the two-party system is corrupt and undemocratic, and it's harmful. That if you look at an event like January 6th comes out of the two-party system.
Right.
When you have identity politics, where 40 to 50% of Democrats say Republicans are evil, and an equivalent number of Republicans are saying Democrats are evil, and both parties utilize that demonization to try and win elections, you're going to have events like January 6th. And I think it will only get worse unless we break the duopoly, right? Unless we go to
Right.
a multi-party system that abandons this identity politics, this red versus blue framing, and goes to an issues-based electoral system.
Mhm.
In terms of what I identify with the Green Party is, one, the need for more direct democracy, strengthening our democracy, making it more inclusive, broadening it. I also believe that climate change is existential, that we are getting hit, as the United Nations says, harder and faster than anyone expected, and that what is coming will break us as a society. And this ties in then to other aspects of our platform, the need for an economic bill of rights, which is included in our Green New Deal. Our
Mhm.
Green New Deal dates back to about 2006 and is not the corporate washed Green New Deal that Democrats present.
Mhm.
But there is an economic bill of rights in there that could stand alone on its own. And that economic bill of rights is based upon the idea that healthcare, housing, education, and jobs are human rights. And we can get into all the aspects of that. But for healthcare, you're talking about single payer universal care that eventually leads to a national health service. You're with housing as a human right, you're talking about things such as rent control, first right of refusal for tenants to buy the property they're renting in, a public banking system to allow working families to purchase homes, not allowing corporations to purchase homes,
Right.
et cetera, right? I mean, jobs, you're talking about annualized living wages, a job guarantee, education, of course, education available to everyone at no cost from pre-K all the way through to I want to become a rocket scientist. You know, I mean, so that's in a nutshell. We're also against the wars overseas. We're against the crime against humanity that's happening at our border. We're against the war on drugs. You know, and then we can go into much, you know, certainly issues of racial justice, LGBTQIA rights. You know, I mean, so I think if you understand that articulation of who we are, you can see how when we say that if we're not on the ballot, those issues are not going to be addressed. Those issues are going to be left out. I don't know how you can listen to what I just said and think that somehow that applies to the Democratic Party as it exists. Yeah, there are a few great voices. There are a few great shining stars on the left in a Democratic Party, but look at the evidence of how the Democratic Party actually performs and what they have done and what you can expect them to do. And you can understand how we are a clear alternative to them.
Right. And but you know, the other thing that's been done to the Green Party too is the Russophobia has come in. And of course, like Bill Stein was called a Russian asset.
Yeah.
Actually, I've been called that because I came forward about my history with Joe Biden. So I was immediately called a Russian asset.
Right.
And so anyone that disagrees with the platform is, I don't know, like you're put in that category. And for some reason, it's people accept it. I don't know why. It mystifies me to this point, that propagandized kind of approach. But what I wanted to
I
ask,
think, Tara, it's part of the identity politic process that you are part of the other, right? I mean, you are a threat. You are someone who is a danger to me and my group, right? So it is the idea that you are, and I mean, and using the Russians is not anything new. I mean, using the Russians has been a very successful tactic among Americans and Europeans for decades now. In the United States for 100 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and for the British, this goes back, I mean, you can go back to what they were arguing about in Parliament in the 1850s, and one side is calling the other pawns of the Tsar. I mean, this is a very effective strategy, right? That has, and they use it because it is effective. You know, and it doesn't mean it's true or has any value to it or has any decency behind it, but it's effective, so they utilize it.